What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants are 2-6 following that crumbling of a defeat yesterday against the New York Jets. I don't know how they managed to blow that game and lose to the Jets, but they did, and now we're 2-6, and the trade deadline is tomorrow, and it sounds like the New York Giants have a couple of real trade candidates available ahead of tomorrow's deadline, namely Leonard Williams and Adoree Jackson seem to be the guys leading the clubhouse as candidates who could be traded tomorrow afternoon, or at least by tomorrow afternoon. And also, I saw Paris Campbell's name floated out there as a potential low-key trade option for the New York Giants. So, will they make a deal? Should they make a deal? Those are the things we're going to be discussing in today's episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you feeling after yesterday's loss, and do you think that the New York Giants should make some trades ahead of the deadline?
How am I doing after yesterday's loss, guys? If you wanted to hear a rant, you're probably going to get one today because I am freaking pissed off. And why? I mean, I'm used to it. My feelings are dead. They're dull. The Giants have made Sundays miserable. I don't look forward to Sundays anymore, guys. In fact, I dread them because the Giants consistently make me depressed. How we lost yesterday's game is beyond me. Our defense stepped up and played tremendously. Third consecutive game, they looked phenomenal. Aside from that one Breece Hall touchdown, they were locked in. Kayvon Thibodeau said, WFN, hold this. Freaking 3 sacks. He's on pace for 18 this year. I mean, that's how you answer the call. That's how you say, I'm not a freaking bust. I'm actually one of the best pass rushers in football, if not on this team. Kayvon Thibodeau stepped up, put in a tremendous performance. Whoever was labeling him a bust, I don't really get it. I don't know how you label a player a bust before like week 3 of his second season. I bet you're probably not calling him a bust now. And, you know, the talk show hosts and the people that don't watch any film and hang up on Carl Banks. I mean, just stop, man. You might as well just quit your day jobs because at this point, no one's going to respect you after your just ridiculous takes. And, you know, it pissed me off because it's just annoying. Like, we already get enough shit as Giants fans losing every week. We really gotta tear down our own players too. Like, let's take it easy. Kayvon Thibodeau was amazing. Dexter Lawrence, I mean, he is entering the upper echelon of players in the league. 15 sacks apparently. We'll confirm that when the PFF stats drop. But at the end of the day, this defense balled out, man. And you know who didn't really play that well and who should be traded? Adoree Jackson. Love Adoree Jackson. Great guy. You know, he did exactly what he was asked to do for the last couple of years. But I think the youth movement must be started now. We have to transition to Deontay Banks full-time as CB1. Time to give Trey Hawkins more opportunities on the outside. Nick McLeod, reserve guy, but, you know, he has some talent. Cordell Flott in the slot. Give him more opportunities. He's been playing really, really well as of late. The linebacker duo of Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden are absolutely fantastic. Really excited about those guys. Jason Pinnock looked tremendous yesterday. This is a team that has a really solid defense, and they're not 100% healthy. Azeez Ojulari still isn't there. But at the end of the day, Adoree Jackson, I think we're better off moving on, getting as much draft capital as we can. I know Petrus Achena kind of floated the idea of the Buffalo Bills being a potential option there, and maybe they're trying to get rid of Khair Alam. So maybe we go and grab him and see if we could develop him into a better player. Obviously out of Florida, decent player coming out of the draft, but, hasn't lived up to the expectation as of right now. But this Giants team, man, I mean, yesterday our offense, guys, I know you're not going to throw in Tommy DeVito and throw the football in those type of conditions behind that offensive line. Like, you're just going to use Saquon Barkley and basically try to run this game into a win. But we played to lose that game at the end. Like, we really did. Like, we lost that game because our coaching was scared, our coaching was nervous, and we didn't do enough. And look, at the end of the day, that field goal attempt, I'm okay with that. Why? Because Graham Gano is supposed to hit those kicks. Graham Gano is one of the best kickers in football, and he missed 2 kicks yesterday, both of them hooked to the right, or the left if you're facing the field goal. You pay a kicker that much, you expect to hit it. I mean, yes, his knee is swollen. Look, but if he's not able to kick, why is he out there? You know what I mean? If he's not able to kick field goals and he should be on injured reserve, why the hell is he out there? If he's healthy enough to be kicking field goals, he should be hitting them. And that really frustrated me. You got to make those plays. You can't miss those kicks in high leverage situations. That's the difference between winning and losing. And look, that game, Anthony, in my opinion, that was the end of our season right there. 2-6, trade deadline coming up tomorrow. Daniel Jones coming back, next week against the Raiders, and we have a tough schedule the rest of the season. I really just don't see how you fight back into this thing. I think that was a nail in the coffin for us personally, because at the end of the day, it's just, how do you bounce back from that? How do you come back from losing to the Jets? And they tried to give us that game. They had over 100 yards in penalties, guys. Over 100 yards in penalties, and we lost that game. Jermaine Johnson hand-delivered us that win. Tommy DeVito runs it in on that QB option. And that's supposed to be the end of the game. They couldn't even move the football. Like, Zach Wilson could not move the football, but in 26 seconds, they managed to throw the ball 60 yards downfield and set it up for a field goal. Tell me how that happens. I mean, the defense did more than enough to win this game, but the Giants' offense was abysmal. Like, it's hard to watch. Like, I'd rather just, honestly, in the first time in history, I think I'd rather turn the TV off when the offense is on the field and turn it back on when our defense is on the field, because we have a better shot of scoring points defensively than we do on offense. And, like, that's freaking depressing. It's embarrassing watching this team. I mean, I don't know what happened to Daboll in terms of, he used to be aggressive. He used to instill confidence into this group, and now he's just taking it all out of them. Like, he's making decisions, in my personal opinion, that demoralizes this group at times. The play clock usage is poor, bad timeouts. Obviously the decisions there that could have gone either way. It's 4th and 1. Push that into a first down and you just secure the win. Instead of running out, your kicker was already missed one in the swirling wind and all the rain, and also has a swollen knee that has to have surgery after the season. Like, maybe you just go for that 1 yard with Saquon Barkley, who we've put our entire offense on, but don't trust to get 1 yard at the end of the game. Like, that's my take. Last year, we went for 2 to win a game against Tennessee, but we won't even go against the Jets with Saquon Barkley back there for 1 extra yard, or just push Tommy DeVito. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to say anymore. It's depressing. It's sad. This team is just a disgrace. I really, and that's barring some, individual standout performers, and shout out to the guys that put it on the field yesterday and played hard and played well, mostly defensively. But the offense, man, like, you're not winning games with this. Even though Daniel Jones is coming back, Andrew Thomas, like, when is he going to be back? We really don't know. Is Daniel Jones going to be able to operate? Like, he's coming off an injury. He just missed a couple of weeks. Is he going to be able to step in and play well? Like, we just don't know. I don't know how far this team goes anymore. I think that, right now, playing our youth, gathering draft capital, that might be our best strategy, because I think this season is probably over. I know that's a really down thought, but like, if anyone wants to give me any optimism here, we're 2-6, going nowhere, losing games that we really should have won. Like, we should have beat Buffalo and the Jets, and we played ourselves into a loss. Anthony, how do you feel right now? Do you think that there's any reason for optimism? Because currently I can't find any.
Listen, if the Giants won that game, I'd say that there was reason for optimism. They would be 3-5, looking at a winnable game versus the Raiders to take their record to 4-5 with a pretty easier schedule, an easier schedule compared to what they had coming up. They really could have made a run for the postseason. Whether or not you think that's in this team's best interest is a whole nother conversation. But right now, do I see hope for the future? Do I see this team being one that can fight their way into the postseason? No, I don't. I think at 2-6, and considering the way that we've seen this offense perform, I know Daniel Jones is the franchise quarterback, the starting quarterback of this team, but this offense wasn't good with him in the lineup. It wasn't good with him out of the lineup. I don't see any reason why it's going to change when he returns. I don't think that this offense is going to just take drastic steps forward and make this overnight improvement just because Daniel Jones is back in the lineup. I think that this is a bad football team, and I think they're going to hang in there and try to compete and try to win games because, to be fair, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll can't afford too many more losses. They are playing for their jobs. This is what they get paid to do, is win football games. So they're going to continue to compete and win football games. I don't expect the Giants to tank or do anything crazy like that, but do I think they're going to win a lot of football games? Absolutely not. I think that this New York Giants team is going to miss the playoffs by a wide margin, and it's going to be another stinker of a season, and that's why I'm starting to turn my attention towards the future, and I think that's what the New York Giants need to do as well. So when we're talking about the main topic of this episode, the New York Giants, the trade deadline, and everything else, I think that it is time that the Giants sell off some of these players. I don't really want to see Leonard Williams go. I really like what he brings to the team. I think that he's still playing at a high level, but it just makes sense for the Giants to trade him and see what they can get. If you can get a third-round pick for Leonard Williams at this deadline, I think you have to take it. Now, the Giants also have to make a trade here, not only because they want to look ahead to the future, but also because of the present. They're down to $1.5 million in salary cap space. You can't do anything with this roster with only $1.5 million in salary cap space. The Giants have to clear some space, meaning they have to trade a player away. They don't even have a choice now. Their back is against the wall. Joe Schoen has to move on from one of these contracts. Now, the Leonard Williams contract, the $32 million cap hit, if they trade him, they free up $18 million in salary cap space? No, they don't, because no team is taking on that cap hit. The Giants are going to have to eat a large portion of that salary. Realistically, they probably can free about up to $9 million in salary cap space, but that's enough to get them through the rest of the regular season. But the $1.5 million that they have left right now is not enough to get them through the regular season, because barring any injuries, any roster changes, the Giants need to have some salary cap space. Making moves like when we were in that emergency and we had to sign Justin Pugh, we could do that, but now we're down to $1.5 million in salary cap space. If the Giants have to make any other moves, if Daniel Jones were to get injured again and the Giants had to add another quarterback to this roster, $1.5 million is not going to be enough to get through this regular season. So the Giants don't have a choice now. They have to make a trade. The low-key trade that I mentioned earlier, Paris Campbell, trading him away with free $3.5 million in salary cap space, that's enough. That probably gets you through the rest of the regular season, having about $5 million in salary cap space. So that's a move that I could see the Giants making, trading Paris Campbell away for a conditional 7th round pick. Again, that's not a trade that you make for your future. You make that one for your present. But a trade like Leonard Williams serves you in both ways. You free up some cap space for the season, and you get a draft pick for the future. Same thing with Adoree Jackson. How high could these draft picks possibly be? No, I'm not expecting any 2nd round draft picks. I'm not expecting the Giants to get any sort of premium on these players, but Leonard Williams is still playing at a high level. I do think there's teams around the NFL that will look at him as a quality starter that can be a difference maker come the postseason. So trading for Leonard Williams might be an enticing deal for a lot of teams, meaning that the Giants can probably move on from him and get at least something of value in return, whether you're talking between a 3rd and a 5th round draft pick for Leonard Williams. And again, I don't want to see Big Cat go, but if you get an offer between a 3rd and a 5th round pick, I don't think you have much of a choice. The Giants have to clear cap space, and they have to start building towards the future. This is not a win-now team, in my opinion. No matter what, even if they won yesterday, that's still not a win-now team to me. If they win next week against the Las Vegas Raiders, this Giants team is still not a win-now team to me. So I would be making the moves to get some cap space for the future and win then. I'm not winning now, I'm winning then. So if I can move on from Leonard Williams, yeah, he's a player that helps me win now, but he's also a player who you trade away, you get that 3rd round pick, you can land a starting offensive lineman, a starting receiver, really quality player within that 3rd round that can help you win then. And that would be my mindset for the New York Giants. So Alex, I think that answers your question. Do I think this is a team that can turn things around? Is there still any hope? I don't think there's hope for this team to make the playoffs this year. Is there hope for signs of improvement? Sure. I think that when Daniel Jones is back in the lineup, I'd like to see him improve his game. I'd like to see the offense improve. I'd like to see the Giants win a couple more games before the season ends. But realistically, if they don't, I'm not going to complain about it. If the Giants land themselves a top 3 pick and they feel like they're ready to move on from Daniel Jones and they want to go after one of these 2 generational quarterback prospects, I'm not complaining. I'm happy with that outcome. So right now, for me personally as a Giants fan, I'm taking the wait and see approach here. I think that the Giants need to make a trade at the deadline. They need to be sellers to start building towards their future. And of course, I'd like to see them win football games, show signs of improvement throughout this regular season. But really, I'm looking ahead to the future for the most part. So trade away some of these players, accumulate some draft picks, and get ready for draft season, because that's where the Giants can really make a difference in constructing this roster with a top pick. Now, it sucks that we have to wait for a top pick all over again. We do this almost every year. Last year was a nice change of pace. We were talking about a playoff team, but right now I don't think that the New York Giants are a playoff team. So I don't know what the outcome of the season is going to be, other than the fact that I feel pretty confident in saying the Giants will not be in the playoff bracket this year. So that's why, in my opinion, it is time to sell some of these players at the deadline, move on, and get some draft picks. But Alex, how are you feeling about that? Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson, moving on, not only just to get these draft picks, but also because the Giants have a desperate need to clear some cap space for the rest of the regular season. I imagine you're in the same boat with me. It's time for them to become sellers at the deadline.
I mean, look, the Giants have some key cornerstone pieces, right? Like I think Deonte Banks is going to be really good. I think Bobby Okereke is really good. Micah McFadden, they hit on Micah McFadden as like a 5th round pick. That's really good value. Trey Hawkins could be a starter. He's been playing pretty well lately. Cordell Flott has been really solid in the slot. Like they've got some pieces here, guys. Jason Pinnock is a good player. Kayvon Thibodeau is a good player. Dexter Lawrence is a superstar. They've got some really good talent on that defensive side for the future. Some young upside there. Offensively, Andrew Thomas is a star. He's just not healthy right now. John Michael Schmitz is going to be very good. Ben Bredesen's a very good left guard. The right guard and right tackle position is a little bit of a different story. I think Tyree Phillips, I got to watch it back, but I didn't notice him being much of a really bad liability. He's still getting used to this team, but I didn't notice him being like a massive liability yesterday against the Jets. I know Justin Pugh got beat up a couple times by Bryce Huff, but he's having a ridiculous year. I mean, Saquon Barkley is still here. I imagine they're going to keep him because they're not going to trade him, so why would they let him go? And for what it's worth, guys, we keep talking about, and Anthony, this is the craziest thing to me. Everyone keeps talking about, like, should we trade Saquon? Like, should the Giants move him? If I'm Saquon Barkley, why the hell do I want to stay on the Giants anyway? You know what I mean? Like, they are so freaking bad. So bad. Why does Saquon Barkley want to stay here? I get the loyalty and stuff like that and wanting to be, win with the Giants. But he could be like, yo, please trade me to a team that's a playoff bound. Like, trade me to a good team that could use my services now, and I can go and win football games. Like, if he really wants to win, it's not going to be here, man. We're wasting his prime years, and that's the honest truth. We're wasting his prime years. And we're asking him to run the ball every down because we can't even trust our quarterbacks to throw. Like, that's so freaking sad. Now, Tommy DeVito, don't expect him to throw the ball at all because of the situation at hand. But Saquon Barkley, when you know it's coming, when you know they're running it with Saquon, what can you do? There's nothing to do. It's tough. But, yes, we need to be trading players because the future is all we really have right now. The Giants have drafted decently well at some spots. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, is a hit. You look at Micah McFadden, that's a hit. You look at some of these guys, Banks, I think that's a hit. Flott, I think that's a hit. Daniel Bellinger, I believe he's a hit. John Michael Schmitz, I think, is going to be a hit. Like, there's some good talent here that we did acquire via the draft the last 2 years and still developing for what it's worth. But with that being said, more draft capital is just objectively good for this team because, look, Adoree Jackson serves no purpose here anymore. You could argue Leonard Williams serves no purpose here anymore in terms of what we could do this season. If we're 2-6 and the hope is lost, the future is what we should be thinking about. And Adoree Jackson, what are you going to get for him, right? Like, you're going to have to take on pretty much most of his salary. He's a $19 million cap hit this year. Maybe you save $1 million or $2 million just to tack on. They take on that salary, but like it's going to be minimal at the very most. You're really looking for draft capital. Maybe you get a 4th round pick for him. I don't think that. I mean, he's had a bad year. Like objectively, he's had a really bad year. 75% reception rate this season. And no, he hasn't been playing most of it in the slot. He's been playing a lot on the boundary the last couple of weeks, and he's been getting absolutely destroyed. I mean, yesterday, like a veteran cornerback doesn't turn his head around and then gets that big penalty at the end to set the Jets up for the win. I mean, that's on him. You know what I mean? Like it's tough. It's tough. It happens. The best cornerbacks get caught in that, but got to turn your head around. He knows better than that. I think that was just bad fundamentals at the end of the day, and maybe they were gassed. Maybe he was just mentally exhausted because they were in overtime and they were just constantly on the field over and over and over again. So I'm not going to hold it against him too much because, it happens to the best of them. But end of the day, I do think that trading him is for the best. And I think the Giants can get some draft capital in return because he can be a top corner on another team. I think that change of scenery for him, he's only 28 years old, would be good. I think he could still perform very well for another squad that maybe has a little bit more upside and reinvigorates his confidence. But Leonard Williams, good interior pass rusher, like a team that's playoff bound will want a player like that. You know what I mean? If the Giants will take on most of his salary and you just have to give us a mid-round pick for it, I think that another team will be interested in biting on that because you can never have too much pass rush. And Leonard Williams is a really solid pass rusher, and he's a good run stopper too. I think that he would be really solid for another team that has aspirations for the playoffs. Other players that come to mind, I mean, Darnay Holmes, there's no use for him. I don't even know if anyone wants Darnay Holmes, but if they did, sayonara. Xavier McKinney, he's been good this year. I wouldn't say he's been great. He's been good. Has missed a lot of tackles. I wouldn't say like he's untradeable by any means. I think that the Giants didn't extend him before this season, and the fact that the Giants didn't extend him kind of said to us that they want to see how he performs this year to see if he's even worth that type of money. And right now, if I had to guess, I don't think they think he's worth that type of money. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think he's worth top safety money. So they may think they can replace him with a different safety in free agency, or maybe they draft somebody with a mid-round pick or whatever it might be. Definitely curious to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think that maybe they'd look to move Xavier McKinney? Do you think he's more of a valuable piece than I'm kind of giving him credit for?
Maybe he's more of a valuable piece. I think he definitely is, and what you're giving him credit for. He's still a young player that had 5 interceptions a couple seasons ago and is still viewed probably really highly by a lot of teams in the NFL as being a young, solid safety. I mean, even looking at his stats, looking at the way that he's playing this season, he's definitely an above average player. He's a good player, and you have to imagine that most teams look at him as a guy that if we put him in the right system with a good team around him, we could probably turn him into a really, really good player for us. But I don't think that they're going to trade Xavier McKinney. I just don't think that's realistic at this point. It's not a move that clears a lot of cap space for them. It's not an aging veteran. This is a team that's trying to get younger, build through their youth, build through their draft picks. Xavier McKinney is one of their younger, youthful players, and I think that they're going to want to keep him around if they can. No, maybe they don't want to pay him the bag, but I don't think he's earned the bag, so they probably won't give him the bag. I think that they probably give him something like a bridge 2-year deal to prove himself, or maybe play him on the franchise tag if they work things out with Saquon Barkley. I don't think the expectations going into this offseason are going to be super high for Xavier McKinney. I mean, a lot of Giants fans seem to think that this is a guy who's going to get overpaid on the market with like $14 million. I don't think that's the case. I think he's just going to get a pretty average deal, and I think the Giants are going to give it to him, and he's going to stick around here with the Giants. He definitely appears to be a player, in my opinion, who is in the team's long-term plans. And you mentioned Patricia Traina. She said that the Giants have maybe gotten some interest from the Bills on Adoree Jackson. She said the same thing. Las Vegas Raiders, maybe they're interested in Leonard Williams. And also she said that she doesn't envision Xavier McKinney getting moved at this deadline. Same thing with Saquon Barkley. We know that the Giants said that they won't trade him. I don't think that they're going to trade Xavier McKinney either. I think those are players who are locked in to stay with this team, at least for the rest of the regular season. Now, other guys that you mentioned, Darnay Holmes, I could see him get moved. That's a player who another team probably looks at as, we could totally trade for this player, give him, a little bit of a competition here, run with our slot cornerbacks, see what he can do. And the Giants, in the meantime, save $1 million, $2 million in salary cap space. Again, that's got to be their priority on those low-key moves like that. You take your conditional late-round draft pick, you free up some salary cap space, you set your team up for a little bit more success across the rest of the regular season. But primarily for the Giants, I think the two names that you're looking at, we talked about them, Adoree Jackson and Leonard Williams, those are the guys who are likely to get traded. I think that undoubtedly the Giants will make at least one deal. I'm going to go ahead, maybe it's my bold take, but you could block me down. I'm guaranteeing it, man. The Giants are going to trade away at least one of those two players. I don't see any way that they can't. Again, they have to because of their salary cap space. So if teams are interested, they're going to take one of those deals. The only caveat is, how much of the salary are the Giants going to eat? How much are they going to keep on their books? Because another team isn't going to be able to take on the full salary cap hit of Adoree Jackson or Leonard Williams midway through the season. Most teams are also in this salary cap bind that the Giants find themselves in, but not quite as bad as the Giants. They have the least amount of cap space in the NFL. So no matter what, they're going to have to make a deal at this deadline to free up some cap space. So I would guarantee, honestly, at this point, that either Leonard Williams or Adoree Jackson, or even both of them, possibly will get traded by tomorrow's deadline. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and how the Giants respond to that. With Leonard Williams, if he leaves the lineup, he gets traded away. I'd like to see more Jordan Riley. A'Shawn Robinson had a great play yesterday in run defense on a 4th or 3rd and short run stop, and I think that he's been a solid player for the Giants. But again, this is a team that's trying to get younger and build through its youth and develop these players. Jordan Riley should not be a healthy scratch in these games. He should be getting a little bit of playing time, in my opinion. DJ Davidson has been solid for the Giants this season. I'd like to see his role continue to expand, see what he has to do for this team, because he's also a young player with a lot of potential. But I'd really like to see Jordan Riley no longer be a healthy scratch if Leonard Williams is off this team. I'd like to see him get a little bit of playing time. And then in the cornerback room, you mentioned it, Trey Hawkins. He's really taken on a larger role in recent weeks, and I don't think he's been bad by any means. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been bad either. He's a rookie who's growing, and same thing with Cordell Flott. I think he's made a lot of solid plays. I'd like to see him continue to play in the slot. That Cordell slot ability seems to be pretty nice. But if Adoree Jackson is out of the lineup, yeah, you look towards the future on this cornerback room. It's a young cornerback room. The Giants have a lot of young talent in that room. Adoree Jackson doesn't seem to be doing much to help this team win games. So what's the point in having him on this roster? You're not winning games anyway with or without Adoree Jackson on this team. So you might as well take that draft pick. Whether it's a 5th or a 6th round pick anyway, it's a pick. And picks help you win games in the long run. And that's the game that the Giants need to be playing right now, is the long game. Get these young guys on the field. Continue to develop them. I'm sure that there's other young cornerbacks I didn't even mention. Nick McLeod, I know he's been playing a lot of safety. He's played cornerback at times. you can move him around, see what you got here, and just develop some of these younger players that the New York Giants have. I think it's really, really important to get those guys on the field for the rest of this regular season and evaluate what you have before you get into the offseason, don't know what you have, and end up drafting players over players who deserve more playing time than what they got during the regular season. Again, it's just very crucial that the Giants get their young guys on the field and start building towards the future here. So, of course, we'll keep you updated on any trades that the Giants do make, any more rumors that we hear ahead of this trade deadline. If they do make a deal, you bet your ass you're going to hear from us right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.